And she has decided that she personally must take responsibility for the community center in Calder Hall. Community center, play park, under her personal control for the last 5 years. They are only representing themselves and not you, the people of Mongrace, Scarborough, or Bagatelle, Bacalet. So I want to ask you tonight that on December 6th, we bring an end to this game of representation that has been performed on us by the other side, and we say to them clearly in Tobago West that we take in high, we take in high in Wim Mongre, in Wim Darrell Spring. We take in low in Lowlands. We take in the 2 jacks, hang jacks in Scarborough, Mongrace, and Bacalet, Bagatelle. PDP! And for good measure, you know, the people in town just take 2 for game. While in the country, we take in 1 for game. They take in 2. So we take in Signal Hill, and we take in Crown Point, and we saying, let's bring the game to an end, and let's vote for Miss Panton in Bacalet, Bagatelle.
PDP victory, the road now run the journey rough. We foot strong and we skin tough.
Here now, I am the worst all-fours player in life. Like, I really do not understand the game. And you know what's so funny? My grandfather, who, you know, owned, well, not owned, but ran the Packer Rebels Sports Club, one of the biggest and baddest all-fours clubs across Tobago. And as a child, I used to look with them. They never used to want us outside. So we used to be on the inside looking out in the yard, looking at them playing all-fours. And to this day, I can't play all-fours. But come December 6th, I'm bound to learn how to play all-fours. Yeah, nah, man. PDP! But let me tell you this though. I wasn't good with playing the all-fours, but I did like the chanting. So on the night of December 6th, look out for my voice. Right? Heat in the place. Heat in the place. Heat in the place. PDP! Yeah. Oh, yeah, let me stop though. Let me don't get carried away. I just really get carried away. Let me come back. Let me center myself because they see that speech, whatever I just put on, they're really making me want to go and learn how to play all fours in true. But here, this now. The next person I'm going to bring to the podium, I met this guy in 2008. I was a first-time voter, and he was a serious-looking dude. Tall, dark skin, intimidated looking, handsome, very Denzel Washington finished. You feel me? PDP has some good-looking men, you know. Yes, you already look nice and sweet on one day. PDP! But when I met him, he was like a mentor to us when we formed our youth arm at the time. And he helped mold us. He's probably one of the reasons why I'm so invested in the development of Tobago and the way Tobago should go. Because of him and others like him, I would have understood the history of Tobago before we got into this dark age, this 20 years of struggle that, I don't know, we're struggling to get out of. Yeah, boy, pressure. Don't be easy being us now. Anyways, I am honored to stand here in this moment to introduce this person to you. He might be dark, but I said the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice. And in this case, the darker the berry, the more intelligent he is. This man is a man of substance. And while he have a very serious demeanor, he means well. Ladies and gentlemen, bringing to the stage one of my favorite people in the world, Mr. Ian Whitey Pollard. PDP!
PDP victory, the road now run the journey rough. PDP! tough. So many dots have been thrown at us. Real Spartans never give up.
A pleasant good night to my PDP family. A pleasant good night to the residents of Bagatelle, Bacolet. I have a simple task tonight, and it's introducing or letting you know about Miss Natisha Charles-Panton. I'm humbled and honored to let you know the type of person Miss Panton is. She's a hard worker. She's dedicated. She's meticulous, as Trevor said. For those who don't know, she was my campaign manager in January. And we worked together to bring the seat home, or wrestle the seat from the PNM in Mason-Moriah. So I know the qualities of this woman. I know what she could bring to the electoral district of Bagatelle, Bacolet. And I would like the residents of Bagatelle, Bacolet to listen to her in detail. I spoke to some of my friends in Bagatelle, and they told me from the first speech that she made, they listened to her, and they said, this is a woman of substance. And there's no doubt in my mind that Bagatelle, Bacolet will receive proper representation for Miss Natisha Charles-Panton. There's no doubt in my mind. So all the shortcomings in the areas, all my friends in Bagatelle, Mason Hall, I know these areas will be corrected. But I want to speak specifically to my people in Kokowati, because like Miss Panton, I'm meticulous about numbers. 4945 has had in January 969 voters. 493 voters did not come out to vote. More than 50%. We had Trevor, my schoolmate, that ran for that Scarborough-Colall seat. He won 4945 by 65 votes. And he is not from Mason Hall or the North Side. Miss Panton is a yard girl. She born and grow in Kokowati. So I'll be very disappointed if the people in Kokowati don't come out in their numbers come December 6th and propel Miss Natisha Charles-Panton to victory. Because Trevor lost that seat by 140 votes. And I am urging the people of Kokowati. I'm not even going to Bagatelle or Bacolet. I need 200 persons from Kokowati to go out in their numbers and vote overwhelmingly. Because once she could propel up to 200 votes extra from Kokowati, game over. Game over. Hang Jack. Game over. So I am very serious about that. I know the party, we will work assiduously, we will work hard to make sure that Ms. Panton brings the seat home. Because, you know, we're just trying to play coy and saying we got 9 seats. We want all 15. All 15. PDP! We bowl about this. But I am saying there's no better person to represent the people of Bagatelle, Bacolet, than Ms. Natisha Charles-Panton and the Progressive Democratic Patriots. PDP! So, Kokowati, like I said, I'm speaking to you directly. I need you to come out in your numbers. I know last election, some people from Kokowati thought they were voting for me, and when they went, they didn't see me, and someone they desponded. Just look for the symbol. Just look for the symbol. No matter who the name is, look for the symbol. A vote for Miss Natisha Charles-Panton is a vote for Farley Chavez Augustine. PDP! That is what is important. We cannot study about personalities when it comes to December 6th. It's about rushing the hill, as we say in the U.S. Army. Rushing the hill. Make sure you take that hill. And we are at that point right now that we are ready to rush the hill. We're going to take control and plant our green and black flag at the top of the hill. This is the time. This is the time. And I'm honored, like I said, to have her as my colleague. As I said, she propelled me to victory in January. I'm going to do all my best to make sure that she secures that seat and all the other candidates in this race. As soon as I'm finished wrapping up my electoral district, probably by Saturday, we are taking Bagatelle by storm. Because we live in close to. So brothers and sisters of PDP, come out in your numbers. Come December 6th. Vote resoundingly for Ms. Natisha Charles-Panton in the Bagatelle Bacalet electoral district and vote for the other 14 PDP candidates throughout Tobago. And let's fix this. I thank you.
PDP victory, the road now run the journey rough. We foot strong and our we skin tough.
Only, you see what's telling you about Whitey? He like a big teddy bear, but, you know, he's a good man. You know, so, last year, October, I was given a list of names and I was asked to call these people and Ms. Panton's name was on it. She said, Whitey name there? I said, yeah. She said, well, if you call Whitey, forget about me. But if you ain't call Whitey, I go do it. This is screening we're talking about. I had already called him, so she said, all right, no problem. And that lady rallied behind Whitey from screening right down to election night. I called Miss Panton because my nerves was real in my hand. I was all by the patent, waiting for them numbers to come out for Joel, and my nerves was in the hand. And I hear up there looking good. So I called in to see if I could get some energy, and Miss Panton really kept me calm. She gives me the aura like, you know, that supportive aunt. Everybody have a supportive mother. But you see, that supportive aunt is a different kind of love. That's what she reminds me of. And every party and every group needs a supporting aunt. Let me talk to the people of Bagatelle, Bacalet. You know, I find that the electoral district very, is a tongue twister. Me know how I feel about that. But Bagatelle, Bacalet. Now is not the time to play. They say when something ain't working for you is to get rid of it and get something fresh. Now is that time. We don't have any more time to waste. At this point in time of our lives, we aren't, speaking to my baby boomers, at this time of our lives, we're not voting for ourselves, well, for yourselves. You're voting for your generations behind you, for the generations behind you. Yes, a better fresh face, a good fresh face. Now is not the time to be selfish. We don't have any more time to waste. 5 more years in the hands of these people and not, or 4 more years in the hands of these people is not going to be good for us. It is not going to be good for us. And at this point, at some point in time of life, we have to say, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And I personally think that there's no better person to represent Bagatelle Bacalet like Miss Panton. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to blow them whistles, sound them horns, raise your voices as I welcome to the podium Mrs. Natisha Charles-Panton. PDP! PDP!
PDP victory, the road now run the journey rough. We foot strong and our we skin tough. So many dots have been shown at us. Real Spartans never give up. Yeah. The winds of change blowing your way. Bust off those chains. It's a brand new day. It's not a dream. It is for real.
Good evening, everyone. All protocols observed. I want to thank my 2 colleagues. The best way I can describe them, eloquence, brilliance, 2 action men. Mr. Ian Whitey Pollard and Mr. Trevor James. I want to recall the story of Deborah in the Bible. She was a female military leader. When the time came for battle, she didn't question God's voice or wonder what others would say or think. She simply had faith to do what God told her to do. Tonight, I want to encourage my PDP Spartans. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for it is our purpose to restore a sense of pride in our people, the people of Tobago. PDP! Bagatelle Bacalet, I am your humble servant, Natisha Charles-Panton. I am a proud product of Cocoa Watty Trace, Mason Hall. And this street now falls within the electoral district of Bagatelle Bacalet. When you go to Scarborough, when you go to the Scarborough market, and you purchase some of the best blue dasheen and the highest quality pork, you are purchasing these goods from a man called Mr. Duncan. The Duncans are from Cocoa Watty Trace. Good things come from Cocoa Watty Trace. PDP! I was trained in the areas of agroforestry, ecological sciences, forestry, and public health. And I worked for over 16 years with the Tobago House of Assembly. 16 and more humble years as a servant to the people of Tobago. Bagatelle Bacalet, I want to say to you this evening, if you give PDP a chance, you can have more. Yes. You can have better and richer experiences. Politics isn't a long-term relationship where one party has to rule forever. You have to give yourself a chance by voting for the PDP. To the workers in the Tobago House of Assembly, give yourself a chance. Allow the PDP to peg your salary to the Tobago's economy. We will fight to implement a system to ensure that you get the best opportunities that Tobago can offer, both in the public and the private sector. PDP! More. If you support the PDP, our district and every other district will have access to a community participatory budget. NGOs, village councils, action groups, all organizations can access funding to execute priority projects within the community. You can finally become contractors and work within your own districts. And then you can resolve all the issues that you're facing. It can be done. You can have more. I truly believe that if we set up an inclusive democracy, all constituents will benefit equitably, fairly, and based on merit. Injustice and corruption will be banished for the foreseeable future. Also, if you vote for the PDP, the vital decisions that shape our future in Tobago would be made in Tobago and not in Trinidad. As your future representative of Bagatelle Bacalet, I will be visible at all times, keep regular meetings with you, address the needs in your area, and represent you throughout the entire 4 years. Bagatelle Bacalet, if you vote for the PDP, we will explore all legal pathways to get your lands regularized. We will give all persons that live in the community an opportunity to develop the Bagatelle Bacalet community. We will fight to prioritize procurement and purchase of all goods and services from Tobago-based businesses. We will fight for the THA to settle all VAT return debts. We will fight to classify Tobago as a special economic development zone and take the appropriate steps to reduce the burden of taxes within the zone. We will fight for the Tobago House of Assembly to fund development bonuses for both teachers and nurses. We will establish a land and housing development program. We will fight for a Bacalet and Scarborough beautification and recycling project. Oh gosh, it's 21 years. We will push for the THA to implement a savings and pensions program for all workers in CPEP and URP. And that is fair? All workers active on the CPEP and URP rolls will have access to state-subsidized and community-based daycare and early childhood development facilities during their hours of employment. Caregivers can also be absorbed into this program. High priority will be given to ensuring that all citizens, even those who are physically challenged and differently able, will have access to all government facilities and services. We will improve island-wide drainage issues. We will ensure street lights are installed throughout the constituency. We will repair collapsing roads, bridges, and nature trails in the constituency. We will install brace walls in areas where landslips are possible, like Mason Hall. We will install security cameras, distance markers, and street signage where they are needed. And there are a lot of water issues across Bagatelle, Bacolet, especially on top of French Fort. We will look into this. We will promote and encourage recycling efforts throughout Bagatelle, Bacolet. And we will also support animal rights initiatives. And Pastor Baines will know because he just said he knows that I love dogs. We will fight for a program to support modernization of agriculture, such as greenhouses, hydroponics, and aquaponics. Consultations will be held on measures to address challenges, improve sales, and preserve agricultural produce. Hope Farm and Bleming will be upgraded and converted into a research, demonstration, and training institute focused on developing and disseminating solutions to the problems faced by farmers. We will develop homework centers with full Wi-Fi access. We will extend the school feeding program by contracting the services of businesses to supply healthy foods and beverages to school-age children. Community development units will play a greater role in modernizing waste management and disposal. We will establish a high-quality college of sports designed to train local and foreign athletes. Agents will be trained and deployed to brand and market the athletes in appropriate leagues abroad. PDP! We will support the Bonmas camp right in Bagatelle and revive and upgrade all the steel pans across the district. And we will establish a proper carnival industries development program. We will encourage the Tobago House of Assembly to upgrade programs for the revitalization of our waterfalls, nature trails, and campsites. Also, I don't want to forget, we will introduce digitization within many divisions across the Tobago House of Assembly, especially health and tourism, so that citizens can look forward to a more streamlined and efficient processing of the dealings with the Tobago House of Assembly. Bagatelle, Bacolet, let me reiterate, I will serve your interests throughout the entire 4 years. PDP! Given our economic circumstances, we have to come together and determine priorities and get these things done. Please remember that a vote for me is a vote for Brother Farley Chavez Augustine to become the Chief Secretary in the Tobago House of Assembly, a man of the highest integrity. So let us come out to the polls on December 6th, 2021, and vote for the PDP. Vote for my colleague, Mr. Ian Whitey Pollard. Vote for my colleague, Mr. Trevor James. You can have more, so come, let me fix this. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
PDP! PDP victory. The road now run the journey rough. We foot strong and our we skin tough. So many that have been shown at us. Real Spartans never.
Is it me or does Miss Panton have all the plans in the world? Like she took all the plans to everybody at the party. I hope Bagatelle, Bacolet could hold all them things she had promised. But anyways, She's a woman of action, so I shouldn't even be questioning that. I just checked my phone, and I went on the live. And we live, the numbers looking real good. To the people on the live, on December 6th, we are going to turn these views into votes. Well, let's say it with me. We're turning views into votes. Again, we say it again. We're turning these views into votes. Right. And now that I've established that, I don't know, but I just get real excited when this person is about to speak. The man does he does real rile me up. I don't know. Something about him. I can't put my finger on it yet. Maybe on December 7th when he wins, I might figure out what exactly it is. But all I hear is, I am not going to do a long introduction on this man. I'm going to allow him and his presence to capture you the same way he just captured me. To the 500 plus people that's viewing tonight, send some flames in the comments for the next man, the next Chief Secretary of Tobago. Ladies and gentlemen, sound your horns, blow your whistles, raise your voices, and welcome our Chief Secretary, Mr. Shfali Chavez Augustine.
Now we got them holding on in order to stay around in a life terribly imbalance. For it is made that way until Judgment Day. PDP family, good night. All of you who are on the live, all of you who are on 89.5, all of you on Tobago Channel 5, we have options for viewing now. We want to welcome every single one of you. And I know for the past couple weeks, those of you who had to rely on television and radio, I know you missed our voices and you were hearing a lot of noises. But welcome to soothing voices you can now hear from the Progressive Democratic Patriots. Tonight we heard from our sister, Natisha Charles-Panton. Isn't she a brilliant young lady? Isn't she an apt area representative? Isn't she deserving to be in the Executive Council of the Tobago House of Assembly? Isn't she the kind of leadership that you deserve, Bagatelle Bacolette? Isn't she the kind of person you could trust with your purse? And you don't have to afraid because they ain't she ain't gonna take your purse and run away with it. And if you do get the purse empty. She is a woman of class, an intelligent woman, quite expert in her own right. And maybe she's not boastful about her own abilities, but she is one of our bright minds that left Tobago, went out to study, and returned home because she believed she has to fight for this place called Tobago. And that's what the PDP is about, fighting for a place called Tobago, so that we can develop this society, so we can make this society better, so that we can restructure, reframe, and refresh this society. Today, I picked up the Business Guardian, and I saw a long line of articles, all of which spoke more or less doom and gloom for Tobago's economy. And as I picked up the paper, the headline, the front page of the Business Guardian said, Tobago's economic headache. It says that's what we have to inherit. The next title says, Tobago tourism, much potential, little performance. The next one says that PNM PDP must face Tobago's economic challenges. Well, you know, PNM plan to face it.
because they are the cause of our economic challenges. Then the next one says Tobago agriculture needs help to grow. Well, we all know that agriculture has been dead for a long time underneath them. And we need to come in and breathe new life into it. The next title says time for economic change in Tobago. And the final one says THA's hotel headache, and spoke to the Manta Lodge and Sanctuary Villa crisis that we have. And over the past couple of days, I've spent time sitting down with you, including an up-close and personal interview by you, the people, begging you to see our vision for a better Tobago, begging you to understand the kind of economic woes that the PNM has placed us through, begging for you to understand that we have to do something different in this season, or else we will be forever lost. And the writing is clear. Moody's giving us a negative outlook rating. Our economy declined by 14% last year. And of course, COVID is part of that. It says that we depend on Trinidad for 99% of revenue. And that's where I wish to stick a pin. Because as much as there were many accurate things in the Guardian business report, the one thing that was missing from the report is the fact that Tobago is a dignified contributor to the national purse. And it is the fact that hydrocarbons come from out of our waters and contributes to the economy and the economic well-being of Trinidad and Tobago. And this article sought to make it look as if Tobago don't contribute nothing to the national purse. And yes, I agree that the worst thing to happen to Tobago since the coming of slavery was the coming of the PNM. But I will be the first to tell you that Tobago has been for the longest while a dignified contributor to the national purse. And the reason why our friends and family in Trinidad, they don't see it, is because we are yet to stand up as an island for our autonomy. You take it for granted. When we had the debates raging some months ago, many of you tuned out, turned off your television, but you did not understand that if that bill passed or passes without amendments, then you will have your patronage stolen from you. You will have your birthright stolen from you. And that will be worse than what you see happening down in Crown Point. Worse than what happened to the people who had the lands for generations. And I'm saying to you, Tobago, and I'm saying to Trinidad by extension, and I'm saying to Dr. Rowley, who made it clear, he has no vote in Tobago, but he has a voice in Tobago. I am saying to him quite loud and clear that there will be no autonomy bill without Tobago having rights to its own territorial waters.
PDP!
And this autonomy issue is serious and it is far-reaching. And that's the most colonial philosophy you can get from a prime minister in Port of Spain. He has no vote here, but he have a voice here. He has no vote here, but he must fly up to play golf and bounce down people. He has no vote here, but he must fly up to tell a party how they should behave and who should be leader. He has no voice here, but he must fly up and determine who should be chief secretary. He has no vote here, but he must fly up and open his mouth and tell us what land we should get and what land he should take and where airport should go and how much airport should cost. The single largest development project in Tobago, the new airport, in the last 21 years, the single largest development project was that airport. You who have a vote in Tobago did not even have a voice in Tobago about it. You could not even say anything about it. And then our MPs with all pomp and flair will try to rebuke and cuss locals and try to tell locals to shut up their mouth. But Tobagoans, I am warning you tonight that if you vote them back into office, you can see your autonomy dreams dead in the waters. Because there is only one party in Tobago that will stand up for you, and that is the Progressive Democratic Patriots. There is only one party that believes that Tobago deserves its autonomy, and that's the Progressive Democratic Patriots. And it amazes me that those on the other side, who a few years ago walked around this island saying that there was no bill that Kamala bring because it had no 200 miles in it, are still at the paper home. They say if it hadn't had 200 miles, they didn't want it, reject it, stand in defense of Tobago. Those same people today are telling you, you ain't deserve not even 1 square inch of your own waters. Well, let me tell you something. I am a Tobago born. I am Tobago bred. I'm living Tobago, and when I'm dead, I'll be a Tobago dead. Therefore, this place belongs to me and every other Tobagonian, and we will fight tooth and nail to protect this island. It's ours. Out of place. And there are many far-reaching implications to not having our autonomy issue settled. Many far-reaching implications for that. It's not just access to hydrocarbons. It's not just access to our waters. But have you thought for a second the wealth of resources we have in our marine space? Have you thought for a second that we need to protect our marine space? Have you thought for a moment that we have to take good care of our fish stock? I have fishermen, fisherfolk, complaining every time I go outside. When they go just 2 miles, 3 miles off Tobago, they're meeting Bajans, they're meeting Venezuelans, they're meeting all kind of people. Everybody else have access and domain and rights to our waters except the Tobagonian. Have you thought that maybe one day you might wake up, or our children might wake up and decide we want to go and start a wind farm, put windmills out in the Atlantic? Have you thought for a second that we may want to set up research institutes in our waters? Have you thought for a moment that we may want to have our own marine parks done? Imagine the last bill discussed in the Tobago House of Assembly in November of last year was a bill to ask the Parliament in Trinidad to pass laws to allow the Tobago House of Assembly to create marine parks in Tobago's own space. Isn't that insulting? It's insulting. And let me tell you, it's not the first time the THS sent down and asked them to pass a bill for us to have marine parks. And they don't care because Tobago's issues are not their priorities. And so having our own autonomy means we can control our priorities. We can determine what we want to do first, second, and third. And let Trinidad stay down there and fight up with crime while we build a better society, a much more competitive society, a society that is much more beautiful and coherent than our neighbors in Trinidad. That is what we want. And in this proposed bill they gave us, they said to us, we will give you the rights to your socio-economic and cultural development. In other words, they say with one hand, you have the right to develop socially, economically, and culturally the way we see fit, the way Tobago sees fit. And then by the time we get to the end of it, they're saying, look, all of this is subject to the cabinet. So in other words, we could pass a law in Tobago today, and tomorrow the cabinet could go to Parliament and unpass the law. And I'm saying that is not autonomy, that is slavery. And we have a set of house slaves walking around in red, telling people to accept that, and that that's good enough for you. Don't ask for anything else. Shut up. Just say yes. That is house slave behavior. And if you are not a student of history, you won't understand that the slaves that were in the house, just because they get to fan the slave master and provide them with a little piece of food, and maybe they did not have to eat the chicken back, while those of us in the field had to eat chicken back. Somehow they feel that they were better than, they were in a different class than. But poor them did not know that they too were enslaved. In fact, Harriet Tubman said that she could have freed thousands more if only they knew that they were slaves. And tonight, Tobago, I'm telling you, we have to take this decision for the PDP to win this election so that we can save those who don't even recognize that they are slaves and slaves to their own political organization. We spoke glowingly a while ago about Bagatelle Bacolet and what we hope to achieve there. But you don't understand how many of our issues are intertwined with the autonomy issue. How many of our issues are part and parcel of our inability to govern ourselves internally. And yes, let me say it loud and clear for the slow, dumb ones in the back of the room, that PDP is not advocating independence and PDP is not advocating secession. And let me also say it again. In 2019, Mr. Duke introduced the conversation about an independent Tobago. Because as he put it, if we're begging for autonomy and you're not giving we might as well take we bag and walk. And when he introduced that in the public square, a heated debate started in Tobago, and not just in Tobago, but within the party, that is the PDP. And in our debates, we sat down for hours and debated it. You could call Dr. Sean Ned, call people like Collis Brown, call people like Megan Morrison and Zorisha Hackett. And we sat down and we debate, Waspia, we debate over and over again until we came to the conclusion that what Tobagonians really wanted is not independence, but what we want is a sort of federal system. And if you look at the documents that Orville London sent down to Trinidad, the document actually said that they want for Tobago a federal type system. If you listen to the Prime Minister, when he first introduced this bill to Parliament, in his first stint as Prime Minister, he himself said that Tobago wants a federal type government. But by the time we get to this final stage, we have some Trinidadians, some Trinidadians telling us in Tobago, we can't get that. That's not part of the mandate. Our mandate is to just give you a little kakada. Well, that is not the mandate. The mandate that we are operating on is the mandate from the people of Tobago. And that mandate is a federal type system. That is what we are demanding. That is what we said we want. And there are some advantages to having that. I listened intently to how the United Kingdom was treating with the COVID-19 pandemic. And I heard Prime Minister Boris Johnson saying, look, I am going to remove the mask mandate for the island of England. I hope you all know it's an island, right? It's just a very big one. The island of England, I'm going to remove the mask mandate. And then he said something else that struck me. He said, but I cannot remove the mask mandate for Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland because they, with their devolved powers, have the right to decide when they're going to remove their own mandate. In other words, in the United Kingdom, one country, you have outlying regions with so much devolved powers that they could decide how they manage their own COVID-19 response. And then when I think of Tobago and look at Tobago and we are sitting in the house and begging a Secretary of Health who know nothing about health, and Dr. Faith is doing the begging and saying, look, we need to see about our own testing mechanisms, denied. We need to have separate institutions to institutionalize those who are terribly sick, denied. We need to rethink putting everybody with COVID just straight in the hospital, denied until we had an outbreak there. And I'm saying to you, Tobago, tonight, if you need people with some testicular fortitude and some ovarian fortitude who will stand up on your behalf and act on your behalf and govern on your behalf and govern for your goodwill and your good living, you have to vote for the Progressive Democratic Patriots. PDP! When we think about tourism, very glaring. Imagine you can wake up a morning and you see big press conference and a chief secretary sitting down sheepishly next to a minister of tourism from Trinidad who has no business in Tobago's business to announce that a private hotel going to happen on state land in Tobago, when it is very clear in the THA Act 40 of 1996 that all state lands in Tobago are resides, all of them are under the auspices, under the control, under the management of the Tobago House of Assembly. In fact, the law says that they are vested in the Tobago House of Assembly. Yet, THAN meet yet to make a decision on that. Cabinet in Port of Spain, who don't even know what Rockley Bay look like, who don't even know how the currents the swing, who don't even know what treasures we have there, sit down in Port of Spain and decide for Tobago where a hotel will go and who will get the hotel. And I will shock you tonight. You may not be aware that a Tobagonian also placed a bid to get the lease for that place. And a Tobagonian in his bid also had a proposal for a Marriott hotel as well. And a Tobagonian in his bid had a similar price structure and investment structure as well. And guess what the cabinet in Port of Spain do? They neglect and deny the Tobagonian who wanted it and give it to one of their Trinidad friends and financiers to come and build a hotel in Tobago. And I'm saying to you, Tobago, if you want that to change, you have to change who is in charge of the THA. You need a man and you need women who will stand up on your behalf, who are not afraid of any cabinet in Trinidad. Because my political leader from Roxborough, he ain't from Diego Martin, he ain't from nowhere about in Trinidad. And if I have an issue with my political leader, it's a 15 minutes drive. Nobody had to take no flight to go nowhere about. And I could call him and say, look, boss, I disagree. Boss, that ain't working. And we could work it out. He's Tobagonian, I am Tobagonian. But them they saw they had to fly down Port of Spain and sit down with their tails between their legs, fold their foot, lap their hands, and ask permission, please, to use the bathroom. Because that's where their masters reside. And that is who is giving them the instructions on how to govern this place. PDP! We cannot make advanced decisions with someone else controlling what kind of decisions we should make. Let me give you another example. Tongue and country planning. Major issue. Developers on the island are complaining. Locals are complaining. I went by a resident's home and he said, look, Farley, see this house I built, I designed it myself. And when I designed it, tongue and country planning did not approve the proposal. And because I had to query the proposal, I have to catch a boat, go down to Port of Spain, drive all the way down Central, South, someplace down below down there so, to sit before a panel of Trinidadians to make a case for why I should build the house I designed for my land in Tobago. When this panel of Trinidadians never see my land, they see what my land look like, they see how it's shaped, they know the community, they know the history of the community, and I'm saying, why are we allowing this to happen? I want you to have a homework tonight. Go and seek out Mr. Natisha Charles. And I hear he's saying that this election is a farce and it should not be used to break a tie. Well, Mr. Charles, you're talking late. Because when we were saying that from day one, you wasn't supporting me. When from day one we were trying to propose all other avenues for us to fix this, you wasn't supporting me. So now we are coming to talk when the election call. After all, we don't do what you want. But in any case, go by Mr. Charles and ask him. Ask him how it was between 1996 and 2001 that the Tobago House of Assembly itself was responsible for signing off on plans for Tobago. Your plans did not have to go down to Trinidad. Your plans did not have to wait 2 and 3 and 4 years to get approval. It was being done right here by the Tobago House of Assembly. And perhaps, let me tell you why when PNM came into power in 2001, they sent the responsibility back to Trinidad to a minister. Because one of the things Mr. Charles did is that there was a plan once upon a time for the Kings Bay estate. John Humphrey and those fellas from out of UNC wanted to have a gated community there. And Mr. Charles and the THA, on instruction from the village council in Delaford, denied and did not pass the plans. That's how autonomy. Because when the THA gets autonomy, your community institutions, like your working village party groups now, because some are like party groups. Your working village councils have an opportunity through their area representatives to advocate and to ensure that issues like those through town and country planning can actually be realized. We could do our own land zoning. We could do our own land management. We could ensure that we build and design communities in such a way that we are not affected every time the rain falls heavy. We can ensure that we have environmental sustainability with how we build, but we can't get those assurances when it is a man or a woman in Trinidad have to decide for us. And that's why we need autonomy. And let me give you yet another example. We have folks down in Cove, Tobagonians doing business in Cove. The rent busting the tail. They can't keep up with the rent. COVID come and they can't keep up. They couldn't keep up before and they can't keep up now. And yes, I created a word, Wasara. They can't keep up now. And while they can't keep up, out of the blue, out of nowhere, from quite in America, a Forbes newspaper magazine will actually write an article to tell us that some next Trinidadian getting land, 12 acres, to plant fresh berries. And not only that, they're getting it with significant tax breaks, they're getting it with significant subsidies from the THA that Tobagonians can't get. Although they keep complaining that the price of the rent in Cove too high, that you can't manage the arrangements down there. And I'm telling you tonight, when PDP take office, we will fix that. Because we'll be managing our own yard. We will fix that. You will get an opportunity to own your own space. And let me be clear, as I'm always clear, a PDP THA is not against outsiders coming here to develop. Because no society can truly develop without outsiders coming in to invest in your space. But I'm putting it to you that we the Tobagonians, we the people of Tobago, we the people who you will put at number 1 Jerningham Street in Scarborough will sit down and decide who comes and who don't come, when they come, how they come, where they will come and go. We will determine those things, not a cabinet in Port of Spain. And that's why we need our autonomy. Education, another field. And we seem to be parroting everything Trinidad does. I picked up some textbooks for some primary school students, looked at a social studies textbook. And when I opened the textbook talking about a water carnival in Charlottesville. And I'm saying, but where water carnival exists in Charlottesville? I grew up in Speyside. I go in Charlottesville since I was small by the library in Charlottesville. And I never seen no water carnival in Charlottesville yet. Yet, in a social studies textbook, they're telling the world, telling students, pupils of this nation, it have water carnival in Charlottesville. It have all kind of things that don't even exist in Tobago. And that's because the people who are writing our textbooks don't have Tobago at heart and don't care about Tobago history and heritage and culture. And for nothing will the THA stand up and ensure that in education we create for our students Tobago-centric information that can help them learn how to navigate this Tobago, understand the space, while at the same time being globally competitive. And that comes with autonomy, that comes with boldness. And that's why I keep saying to you every time I talk to you that somebody told you a lie, that you ain't good enough, you ain't big enough, you ain't bright enough, you ain't wise enough, you can't do it by yourself, I have to do it for you. That is neo-colonialism. That is Port of Spain deciding that it must control everything that happens in Tobago. And it's not now that start. It's not now that start. When James Bigat wanted Bishop's High School to come to Tobago, the same Bishop's High School the Prime Minister went to, the same one plenty of them does boast about, they don't tend to remember that it was James Bigat, a black man, who went to Trinidad and fought for that school to get government assistance. In fact, he had to go down in the parliament and almost cuss. He had to go down there and behave like a Watson in order for the parliament to get up and recognize that it needed to actually support a school in Tobago, because the parliament at the time was saying, look, Tobago only has peasant farmers, small farmers, black and poor farmers. They don't have the natural inkling to actually take in proper education. But he had to fight for it. And when he fought for it, he fought for the secondary school that became the first to actually teach agricultural studies as a curriculum subject and to do it in CXC in the country. He fought for a school which was the first school designed in the entire country specifically for poor black and brown children and not for them highfalutin descendants of slave masters. He fought for a school that eventually became the first co-educational school in the entire country, and he met opposition for that. We go to A.P.T. James, and A.P.T. James died with a broken heart because Robinson beat him. Because Tobagonians, and while I love Robinson, Tobagonians took God out of their thoughts and voted PNM against A.P.T. James. And so his heart got broken and he died with a broken heart. But he had to fight. They didn't take him on. But when the same Robinson who was PNM, see how PNM's mentality to Tobago was. He had to pack his bag and walk and leave and take the hard decision to form a party that did not have any ties with a party in Trinidad. He started with the DSC, and under the DSC he went to Parliament with a bold vision for Tobago House of Assembly. And the vision was so bold, it was picked up by the Joint Select Committee at that time. And when Dr. Williams saw the report and said they want to offer Tobago, Dr. Williams skin up his face, well, better they go. If they want to go, let they go. You know, every time we talk autonomy, the first thing that they start to say is they want independence. Let it go. Let it leave. But trust me, they don't mean that at all. They don't mean that one bit. Because if Tobago was to leave the Union, Trinidad has more to lose than Tobago has to lose. So they don't mean it one bit. And after Eric Williams said that, they dumbed down the document, they stripped it of all its powers. And then Robinson came back to Tobago to start the first THA. And let me tell you how bold and brave Robinson was. In the first THA Act, it had nothing in that act about secretaries or anything called secretaries. It was just like a glorified village council. They weren't being paid well. Everything was passed on the floor. They sat down as one committee of the whole and discussed matters in the Tobago House of Assembly. Robinson, with his own vision and fastness, created something called secretaries and divisions and allocated responsibilities for which his members were not being compensated and paid for. And up to this day, we have citizens in Tobago who are part of that THA, and up to now can't get no gratuity, no pension, no nothing from the THA, although they gave good service to the THA. And you know what is bothering is that we have an executive council who will sit down and approve gratuities for one man for over $700,000, but they can't give gratuity and pension to Tobagonians who served and served well in the Tobago House of Assembly. And I'm telling you, when we get into power, when we get into office, we will fix that. We will fix that. And I saw Dr. Jeff Davison up to this evening, and up to now, not 1 cent he could get. Not 1 cent. And these were the people who labored to give us what we have. In a week's time, we're going and celebrate Assembly Day. What's the use of celebrating Assembly Day when we can't celebrate those who founded the same as THA that we are fighting for? And what is shameful is that the people who are nastiest in this fight and fighting for it did not even want it in the first place. They were the same ones walking up and down Tobago, going around with petition, fake petitions, trying to create a petition to say that Tobagonians don't want it. They wanted county council if you give them a chance. They didn't want a THA. Now all of them want it because they pocket fat and they want the pocket to get fatter. But God will not allow it. God will help us to fix that. And then in 1996, Robinson went back again. It was 1772. I don't know if you can remember that, 1772. And in that moment, they were there fighting again for Tobago to get autonomy. But the government did not have a majority. The government did not have a majority at that time. And guess what? We ended up with Act 40 of 1996. An improvement from what we had, but still not there yet. And then we fast track to 2021, where we had the latest iteration being brought before the Parliament. And the debate, the Prime Minister went in the Parliament, he cursed me, he cursed Vanos James, he cursed Winford James, he cursed Natisha Charles, he cursed Deborah Moore-Miggins, he cursed all the way who had something to say and who disagreed. And I'm saying, I rather get cursed with some good Tobagonians than stand on the side of Dr. Rowley. I am happy to be on the same side with people like Deborah Moore-Miggins and Natisha Charles and Vanos James and Winford James. Then I know I am in good company. And all of we get cussed because we say the bill ain't finished yet. It's incomplete. And when they met resistance, they said, okay, hold on. We will give you 15 days to make amendments. And I spent time, contrary to the advice of some seniors, say, Farley, you're wasting your time. Some members of the party said, Farley, don't waste your time. But I said, you know what? I am going to give it time. Because if I sign up to be a leader of this island, I have to give it time whether or not I think it is important. And I took time, and I sat in a room for many hours. Dr. Remy, you could ask you in Esishi, Mrs. Davison Celestine, Mr. Dennis, Nikosi Philip, Natisha Charles, and Civil Net, and myself, sat in a room, and we got through the document line by line, precept upon precept, as the Bible says. And after we go through all and make amendments to changes, the first thing PNM said is that they can't support that. They can't support any of these measures. We should just accept the bill as it is. And then when I ask you whose interests these people have, I'm not being facetious. I am telling you that they do not have your best interests. They have the party's best interests, but they don't have Tobago's best interests. And let me tell you something, one-time PDP fans and supporters and would-be voters, that my priority is Tobago over the PDP. And if there ever comes a time where I have to choose between Tobago and the PDP, I will choose Tobago every single time, because the island must come before party. The island's needs must be recognized over those of the party's needs. But anyhow, Mr. Charles and the rest of us sent down the amendments to Parliament. They gave it 15 days. We took the 15 days exactly, and we sent through the amendments. I called to ensure that the amendments reach. And then all of a sudden they hear nothing. Whispers. The same people who in an autonomy bill said they will give us 6.8% of the budget. When the real budget come, where they had an opportunity to give us between 4.03% and 6.9%, they give us closer to 4.03 than closer to 6.9%. Tell me them people ain't wicked. Tell me those people are not tricky and conniving. They do not have your best interests at heart. And so, if it's one thing I agree with my former student on, is that when you have the same party in Trinidad and the same party in Tobago, it does have problems. It doesn't work out. It doesn't work in favor of Tobagonians. It does work in favor of the Trinidad party. Remember, PNM was never a Tobago party. Eh? There was a Trinidad-born, Trinidad-raised party. They're in favor of the party over Tobago. And I'm saying to you, Tobago, tonight, that you may not think about it as important. You young people who during the debates were saying, but all they're talking about autonomy, we don't care about that. I want to assure you that a lot of your bread and butter issues are tied to this autonomy question. A lot of the THA's ability to hone and harvest new investments comes out of the ability to run our own affairs. Imagine if we were running our own affairs with tongue and country planning, how we could rezone the place. Imagine if the land license regime, where a foreigner has to get permission to buy land, was being signed off on by Tobagonians. Imagine that is a Trinidadian has to decide whether a foreigner could buy land in Tobago or not even a Tobagonian. People who ain't live here, people who have no birthright here, people who ain't owe Tobago nothing, deciding whether or not a foreigner can invest in Tobago. And we sitting down in Tobago, hands folded, and thinking that somehow, miraculously, we will be able to redevelop this space. We will be able to actually transform Tobago. We cannot do it adequately and fully unless we get our autonomy. And finally, I was with the candidate for Bagatelle Bacolet, Mrs. Panton. We had a street meeting of sorts in Bacolet. We stood in the street and all the residents came out of their home and stood around us as we discussed this matter. And as they stood around us, the final note was perhaps the most powerful one for me. A well-known businessman in Tobago said to me, he said, Brother Farley, you know when I'll get into office? He said, not if, but when I'll get into office. The first thing you all have to address is the issue facing our business community. I said, what do you mean? He said, Farley, I know at least 5 businesses down in Compoint that don't sell out to non-Tobagonians already. And the same Compoint that we were proud of and say Tobagonians rise up and build their own space and creating their own economic movement in Compoint. We started to call it a local hip strip, we local avenue. When you pass through there on certain nights, you pass through there on Saturday night, the place buzzing with activity. People all over the place, dancing on the side of the road. You have to drive carefully because you don't want to bounce on nobody. Hotels complaining, the noise too much. Them same people selling out the place now. And he said to me, he said, if you don't do what you need to do when you become chief secretary, we will have limited indigenous Tobago businesses left. And that struck me hard because I keep saying to you that I cannot understand how we have an island government here that has some devolved powers. We ain't get all that we want yet, but we have some devolved powers to manage this place. We have an executive and exclusive administrative privileges and rights. And yet, over the last 40 years of the THA, we have been unable on this island to create from among us the kind of wealth that will generate billionaires who can compete with the top richest people in Trinidad. We are yet to be able to do that. Yet to be able to do that from right here in Tobago. And that tells us a lot. It tells us that for the last 40 years, especially the last 21 years, the focus was never on empowering you, the people. The focus was never on ensuring that you could rise up and you could be good. Because you ain't good enough to get big contracts. You ain't good enough to own big piece of land. You ain't good enough to get a house with white picket fence. You ain't good enough to get a nice car. Them alone must get everything. And then when you buy one like me, you struggle and kata to buy one like me, and go and beg the THA for a loan like me and paying for it every month till when you don't pay for it, you don't know how you're paying your bills. The same people who taking everything will turn around and say, but what Farley doing with that car there? Where Farley get that car there from? And it shows you that they do not have your best interest at heart. They want good for themselves, but not for you. And I'm saying to you, without any fear of contradiction whatsoever, that a PDP-run THA will empower you. A new breed of Tobagonians will rise up. A new kind of boldness will get into your spirit. You will walk with your chest high and your head high because you know whose you are and you know where you're from. And you will be proud of your heritage. I'm saying to you Tobago tonight that I am in this battle not just to get on a seat somewhere in Lowlands or to sleep in Lowlands because I like my bed right in Speyside. As a matter of fact, I am okay sleeping right there. Chief Secretary pick me up in the morning and drop me off in the evening. So I don't care about the trappings of office. But I am in this fight because too many of our young people at this moment have a crisis of confidence. A crisis of confidence. They're not proud. They're not brave. They're not bold enough. They seem afraid and bashful. And I'm saying to you, Tobago, we have to get rid of those who want to bring you down and start something fresh with a group of people that want to empower you. We have to empower you. We have to make you better. We have to treat you with dignity. We have to empower you so that you can become wealthy too. And so when we talk about having funds available for your community that you can have access to, We are trying to ensure that the wealth of the island is evenly distributed, that it circulates far and wide, that you in your small village up in Castara and in Charlottesville and Speyside and across there in Annosvale and Lekoto and Golden Lane can have some access to. You must have some access to. And you know what is painful is that the trick and even say, look, we have this committee for rural development, and people drawing big money, and oh no, you can't see, you see the rural, but you can't see the development. And I'm telling you, that's because they are not interested in empowering our people. But a PDP government, a PDP-led THA, is a THA that is going to be about making all manjack even. We ain't here to chase anybody out of tongue. We are here to embrace everyone and develop everyone and uplift everyone and make everyone happy in this space. We have to do it. What happened to us? So, we can't have dreams. We must have nightmares only. We can't have dreams of big things and great things. We can't dream of a Scarborough that looks fancy and nice, that more than one cruise ship could pull into, like Trevor, but that Trevor presented to us. We can't dream of having parkades and having skywalks and having beautiful shopping centers. We can't dream of having tax-free zones. We can't dream of having our products reach markets far and wide. What happened to us? Who say we can't dream about a better Tobago? And I tell you tonight, Tobagonians, that those who have had the authority and the power for the last 21 years have killed your dreams. And after killing your dreams, they come to tell us, we will give you this, we will give you that, we will give you the other. So on to the last 21 years. You didn't know we needed 3,000 jobs. You didn't know we needed all this piece of land. You didn't know we needed money to buy a house. You didn't know we needed all of these things. What happened to the last 21 years? What happened? They were sleeping while we were trying to work. What happened to the last 21 years? They should have been campaigning on the premise that we have done. Instead, they're campaigning on the premise that we will do. If after 21 years your work can't speak for itself, then you ain't going to work at all. You ain't going to work at all. And I'm saying to you, Tobago, tonight, that you have an opportunity to do something great in this election. You have an opportunity to swing the thing. You have an opportunity to do something different and something big. You have an opportunity to not only dream, but to wake up from that dream and start to pursue that dream. Because dreaming without waking up is just a hallucination. You have to wake up and pursue the dream. We're dreaming about this place called Tobago for too long. We have to wake up and pursue this dream. And I am convinced that we can do better. I am convinced we can get greater. I am convinced that we can get transparency. I am convinced that we can get the kind of Tobago that we dream of. I am convinced that we can get it. And so I say to you tonight, Tobago, we have an opportunity in 2 weeks and a few days to begin to transform this island. Transformation is never easy. If you look at the transformation of a human being from in the womb to becoming a man or a woman, it is never easy. You spend 9 months in a womb being nurtured, and then you are pushed out with great pain, and then you are breastfed until you are weaned, which simply means you're mature enough to leave the baby alone. And then you have to struggle to creep, and you have to struggle to walk. And many times you're trying to walk, you will fall down, you might bruise your skin, you become a toddler, you might get a bike, you might get toys, and then you get more bruises, and you get more cuts, but you're still going through. You don't stop working and you don't stop transforming, because if you do, you will die. You will degenerate and die. Your body will stop functioning. And that is what has happened to Tobago. We stop moving. We stop transforming. We stop undergoing the growing pains. And because we stop doing that, we have found ourselves where we are on the brink of degeneration. In fact, we probably degenerated in some parts already. But in this skillful workshop, we could bring you back like brand new. We could make you over again. And that is what this campaign is about. How do we make you over and make you dream big things again and get to that place where you could get better, where you could do better. And please, this is about you. Vote selfishly in this election. This is about you. This is about you and you only. It's not about anybody else but you. This is about you. Make this about you. Make this election about you. Make it about your family. Make it about your children. Make it about those that have been neglected. Look over the fence. Look at the neighbors down the street. Look at the young children and them who could barely get devices and they run up and down the street all day, and vote for them too. That's the kind of selfishness with which you must vote. Because for too long you vote people who you thought had your best interests, and instead they had their own interests. Now it's time for you to see about your own business. As I told you on nomination day, Tobago's business is only mined properly when Tobagonians mind their business for themselves, not when anybody else mind it. And so, not only do you have a vote in Tobago, you have a voice in Tobago, and I will fight for you to have that voice in Tobago. And I want to also say to you that your vote and your voice is much more superior to the vote or voice of the Prime Minister or anybody down in the cabinet in Trinidad. Your voice is what is important. Your voice and vote is what matters. And don't let nobody come talk over you. This is your house. Be man and woman in your own yard. Don't let nobody come in your yard and tell you how to operate. Let nobody come in your yard and tell you how to decorate your yard. It's your yard. This is your yard. For you to do what you want. Yes, like a lady told them, come out of my yard. We have to tell them Trinidadians, come out of my yard. Because this is Tobago's space and Tobago's business. And for too long, we have entrusted others with our business. And we are going to take charge of our own business come December the 6th. We're taking charge of our own business. And while I am generally a very peaceful person, and while I am good-natured and I like to mediate and I like to make everybody feel happy and feel good, let me tell you, when it comes to Tobago's business, it ain't no smiley business in that. It's beast mode to fight for Tobago's business, because your business is our #1 priority. BDP! And so I say to you, you want autonomy? Vote PDP and you go see what's going to happen. Because the Bogat and them want to win election in 2025. That I know. Let me vote PDP and see how quickly you ain't going to get the autonomy bill that you say you want. They will give it to you. You have to know when you have a trump card in your hand. You can't have a trump card in your hand and under Trump. When you have a trump card in your hand, you have to know when to play it. So you could hang a jack, like how Natisha Charles-Panton will hang a jack. Like how Trevor James will hang a jack. Know when to play a trump card. And right now, the trump card is in your hand. You have the biggest card on the board. And you could rule the board. And I'm saying to you, don't play foolishness with your trump card. Use it wisely. Don't under Trump. Wait. Because the jack is in their hand. You just wait on the right moment. The jack had to come out. And we will call out the jack. We will hang the jack. And Tobago will get what it wants. PDP! And so I say to you again, vote PDP and see how quickly they will move. The same bill we send on amendments for that lapsing right now in the parliament. As you vote PDP, I assure you on Tuesday morning, the first call I will get is from Dr. Rowell. He said, Brother Farley, you know we went to the same school and we were in the same house. What is it Tobago wants? PDP! It gonna be easy like that. I ain't gonna even have to fight up too much. Because Tobago, you would have played your trump card well. And so I tell you, as I always do, I believe Tobago can become the greatest little island on the planet. And I will keep saying it until you believe it. because we ain't settling to be second to none. We are not settling to be second to any. We're not settling for anything behind anybody else. Our aim is to develop a society that is comparable and competitive with the rest of the world. And I want, when my students go off to university, as I did, they could walk with their head high and boast that they're from Tobago. And when they say Tobago, the whole region must look at you with envy and know that you come from a good place, with good governance, with transparency and honest leadership. You must be able to walk with your heads high in any office. Me and Mutlin, nothing. Farley coming. Singapore, nothing. Tobago is coming. Because we must become the textbook example of how development must be done. And part of that development goal must be Tobago getting its autonomy, must be our ability to get what we deserve. And please, I know my brothers and sisters on the other side believe everything I tell you tonight. Because in 2013, they came around and convinced many of us to believe the same things I told you tonight. And so if they're telling you after tonight, forget Farley and them, don't believe that. That sounds like secession. Tell them that they are hypocrites. Tell them that they are liars. Tell them that they are tricksters. Because they convinced us in 2013 to believe those things. The whole island of Tobago believed we should get 200 miles. The whole island believed that. And yet we have an Attorney General with his convenant accent talking up in the nose hole, telling us what we can't get. That is not his business. Tobago's business belongs to Tobagonians. And we will demand what is justly ours. And so let's demand what is ours starting on December the 6th. Let's demand what is ours starting with our vote. I am telling you, use your trump card and use it well. Use it and use it powerfully. Don't take any trickery. At this point, $50 million too late. $50 million too late. We should have get that since COVID started. We should have get that when we applied since last year for the grant. We should have get that before we business closed down. We should have get that long time. $50 million too late. Your 400 food cards and change too late. Because after 21 years, we know what we want and we are going for what we want. We are bigger now. We're stronger now. We're wiser now. We wake up from our slumber now. We learned from that old proverbial saying that he who knows not and knows not that he knows not is as fool. Leave him. He who knows not and knows he knows not is asleep. Wake him. He who knows and knows not that he knows, you have to leave them there alone. But they are ignorant. But you see, those that know and know that they know, they are wise. Follow them. Do the wise thing, Tobago. Follow wise people, Tobago. And let's march into making Tobago the greatest little island on the planet. Thank you all. Have a good night. Have a blessed night. Love you all and God bless you all.
All you know, Father, that's really excite me, you know. I wish election was in the morning. Because me first would have the doorstep. But anyways, every good thing must come to an end. For now. Because in the morning, we'd like to invite you to tune in to our Facebook page for our PDP mornings at 8:30 sharp. We have a very interesting program every morning, so we'd like you all to tune in. And on Saturday, same time, same place, we'll be here and we will be focusing on the electoral district of Bethesda Lekito. Ladies and gentlemen, please get home safely. Thank you for coming. Continue to follow the COVID protocols. Wash your hands, stay socially distanced, be great, and don't forget to turn these views into votes and vote PDP on the December 6th. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
PDP victory. The road now run, the journey rough. We foot strong and our skin tough. So many that have been shown at us. Real Spartans never give up. Winds of change blowing your way. Bust off those chains. It's a brand new day. It's not a dream.